Hello everyone, welcome to my channel on understanding finance and sports. This is episode 3 on expenses. So what are some of the major expenses within large sports organizations? Governance. These are costs related to governing and running the organization and the sport itself, whether the organization is a club or a national association or a global sports federation. The way that I define governance is the process by which an organization makes its decisions. So in the case of a large sports organization, it will have a board of directors, a chief executive, and members of management, and various committees that decide on the way the sport functions. This is an important topic and one that I will be covering on its own. Operational costs. Obviously, whether it's an international federation or a club, it has to be run from an office somewhere. And like any other business, there will be the usual costs such as staffing, office costs such as rent, IT, stationery, furniture, etc., and costs of traveling and meetings and so on. Event costs. These are the costs involved in organizing and running a major event such as a World Cup or the Olympics, or running a league such as the NBA or the English Premier League. And the costs run into billions of dollars. And for organizations such as FIFA and the Olympics, this is their biggest expense. And obviously, within this heading, there are many hundreds of individual cost lines. Marketing and promotion. The cost of marketing and promoting a sport or a major sports event is very significant. It's important that the sport is able to attract the right stakeholders and that it is able to attract people and companies that are willing to put money into the sport. This requires innovative and sustained marketing and promotional strategies to properly and attractively package and sell the sport. Especially if you're competing against all the other sports for a share of a limited pool of funds from companies that are willing to sponsor sport. And as with most things, the sponsoring company must be convinced that they are receiving value for their money. Ensuring integrity within the sport. When a spectator watches a match, he has every right to expect an unbiased and fair match without there being unnatural outside influences, and where the outcome will be decided in a free and fair manner. However, sport has for some time been the target of influences that try and predetermine an outcome, and this shakes the very foundation of the concept of free and fair competition. There are two main aspects to this, namely doping, which is the use by athletes of banned substances, and corruption, where someone is trying to fix the outcome of a match or of part of a match. The use of banned substances by an athlete means that the match is no longer a fair competition between that athlete who has unfairly enhanced his performance abilities through the use of banned substances and an athlete who is on the other side of the net, who is relying purely on the many years of dedicated practice that he has put in to reach the level at which he is today. Athletes may be tempted for many reasons to use drugs and enhance their performance, and therefore the sport is increasingly spending money to ensure that its competitions remain clean and free of the use of such substances. The World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, is the global body that has been set up that regulates the use of drugs by athletes in international competitions. And WADA has quite detailed and sometimes complicated processes in place to try and ensure a drug-free competition environment. Sport has also increasingly been targeted by corrupt individuals who will try and fix the outcome of a match or of part of a match, and who then make huge amounts of money from betting on that predetermined outcome. International sport is well aware of this, and many organizations are taking the necessary action to try and deter such occurrences. Many books have been written and there are many investigative documentaries on these topics, some of which really make fascinating reading and viewing. Perhaps like WADA, it's now time for a global anti-corruption body to be set up that can monitor and deal with corruption in all sports at a global level. Team costs. For large sports teams such as the Chicago Bulls, Manchester United, Barcelona, that have high-profile teams, obviously the cost of maintaining their team is their biggest ongoing expense. So here we are talking about player salaries and the salaries of coaches and trainers and a whole host of support staff. In these days, you have a fairly large group of qualified persons there to support the players in every way possible. Also, there is the ongoing cost of the team kit and the team travel and lodging when the team plays games away from home. So we continue with some other major expenses. Player transfer fee. Professional players sign contracts with clubs for a fixed term period. That could be for a number of years. But before their contract expires, by mutual agreement, the player can transfer to another club and his new club will pay compensation to his old club, and this compensation is known as a transfer fee. And this can involve a very significant amount of money. As we discussed in the last episode, the current record player transfer fee is 222 million euros that Paris Saint-Germain paid Barcelona for the Brazilian striker Neymar. This was a huge cost for PSG. Obviously, PSG must have done their homework and must have run the numbers and will hope to recoup that investment in many different ways by the presence of Neymar in their squad. This could be through increased sale of Neymar t-shirts, increased club membership and attendance at matches, increased media and sponsorship income, and increased prize money if they win more games locally as well as internationally. Grants and member distributions. International and national sporting federations also provide their members with grants and distributions out of the profits that they make from their events. For some of the not too well-off members, this can be a major part of their annual income, and we will look at distribution models in due course. Maintaining grounds and facilities. For sports clubs, the cost of maintaining their grounds and their facilities is quite high. Obviously, you want your facilities, such as your playing fields and the gymnasiums, to be using the latest equipment and to be of top-notch quality. The international federations also monitor the facilities and can fine the home team if the matches are played on substandard grounds. Game and sport development. One of the most important mandates for an international sporting federation as well as national associations is to ensure that the sport continues to grow, and therefore they should spend money on grassroots sport development and facilities. This includes providing proper playing facilities, coaching programs, school and college programs, and setting up sport academies to start getting children interested and involved in the sport from an early age. Video and media archives. The federations, association, and the leagues have a lot of video footage and media archives that they maintain of all their events. Nowadays, major event archives are fully digitized in a number of different ways, and the technology has become quite advanced. So for example, if one wants to know how many successful passes a particular player made in his last 10 games with his left foot or his right foot, with the technology in place today, this information would be available quite easily. The cost of maintaining such an archive is again fairly significant, but the organizations will try and monetize this by selling their archives to people who want to use them for a certain purpose, whether it's for their own advertising and promotion or for some other use such as in sports documentaries. Risk management. It's important to have some financial contingency plans in place in case things don't work out at events according to plan. So for example, if there's an important match that is rained off, then that can result in quite a significant financial loss for the organizers. To protect against the possible cancellation or abandonment of matches, the organizers normally take out various types of insurances, so at least from a financial perspective, they are covered. One can have insurances in place both for the revenues as well as for the expenses, and this is a very important aspect of major event planning. An interesting news item recently reported that Wimbledon Tennis paid an estimated $2 million a year for the last 17 years towards pandemic insurance. As a result of the coronavirus and the cancellation of this year's tournament, Wimbledon will reportedly receive $141 million from that policy. So their risk management policy towards protecting themselves financially against a worldwide pandemic has actually paid off and has protected them financially. It has also been reported that the Royal and Ancient, which oversees the British Golf Open Championship, has pandemic insurances in place as well. Match officials, obviously at the highest levels, it's very important that the match officials, the umpires, the referees, and others who are officiating a match are of top quality and that they make the right decisions. This is absolutely crucial if you want to maintain the quality and integrity of the match, which can otherwise quickly descend into a farce. Accordingly, there is a proper system that is set up for ensuring the continued identification, training, and development of match officials. Obviously, there will always be human errors, but these should be kept to as few as possible. According to one report, an English Premier League referee makes around 245 decisions per game over 90 minutes, and on average they make around 5 errors per game, meaning that they are right 98% of the time. This is an excellent percentage considering all that a football referee has to do physically and otherwise during a game. Taxation. Sport, like any other business, is subject to taxation, and the cost of the taxes and the cost of tax planning to minimize taxes should be a major factor within the strategy of any large sports organization. One obviously wants to minimize taxes so that the money saved can be used for the future development of the sport. Legal and professional costs. As sport is a multi-billion-dollar business, it obviously involves significant commercial and other contracts which are now drafted and reviewed by special sport accountants and lawyers. There are also various other professional consultants who play a significant role in helping the organization to manage itself professionally and safeguard its financial and other interests. Now let's look at some of the costs involved in organizing a major event such as a World Cup. Infrastructure costs. For a start, for a major event such as a World Cup or the Olympics, there will be a huge amount spent on enhancing the existing and building new physical infrastructure in the country and in the cities where the event is being held. So for example, considering the high-profile nature and significance of a World Cup and the fact that there will be many thousands of people visiting that country before, during, and even after the event, the physical infrastructure has to be able to support the influx of all sorts of visitors from all over the world. Whether it's the teams, the fans, the media, and many others, including high-profile dignitaries and VVIPs. So the host country will have to upgrade existing facilities to make them up to the required international standards or world-class standards. This may mean upgrading its airport, upgrading hotels, and even maybe building some new hotels to be able to accommodate the visitors in 5-star facilities. Some events have even used cruise ships as hotels during the event. The road and transportation and communication networks may need to be upgraded, and the stadiums themselves will have to be upgraded, and possibly new stadiums may also have to be built. This is an enormous expense, but one which is usually the responsibility of the host board and therefore the host government as well. The event owners, such as FIFA and the IOC, normally do not pay for infrastructure upgrades, as they believe that these new upgraded facilities are ultimately for the benefit of the host country, and that those benefits will continue for many years long after the event. Broadcasting and marketing related costs. These are costs involved in broadcasting the event and promoting the event through marketing and advertising. The cost of broadcasting will include, for example, the cost of TV production, which is a very significant expense. The TV production feed is then provided to the broadcaster to beam the matches around the world live that come straight into your living rooms. And then there are the event operational costs. And for example, this includes the costs of ticketing and stewarding arrangements, which is a huge exercise. Security is a crucial part of the event arrangements, as you really can't afford to have any security breaches during the event, inside or outside the stadiums. And the state police and private security firms are normally out in force during this period. There's the cost of travel and accommodation involved for the teams as well as for the officials and administrators. Staffing is a major event and there can be thousands of staff involved at the time a major event is on, including many volunteers. The match day costs, which are the costs of putting on that specific match that day, getting the ground cut overnight, cleaning the stadium and the spectator seats, the cost of the floodlights and power on that particular day. The cost of all the match officials. For the 2018 FIFA World Cup, there were around 100 referees and assistant referees throughout the event. The media arrangements and the media management is a critical aspect for a World Cup, and there could be several thousand journalists present during the event. One would want the media to have excellent facilities in place for continuous and seamless and hopefully positive reporting on the event. This would include their stay at the hotels and their food and transportation to and from the stadiums. It helps if the media people are well taken care of and have a positive personal experience. Obviously, there is the prize money for the teams for winning and for participating as well. The prize money for the 2018 FIFA World Cup was $400 million as a whole. The winner received $38 million. And then there could be foreign currency exposures because the event revenues are received in, say, US dollars or euros, and part of the expenses are, say, in the local currency of the host country. So there could be a significant foreign exchange risk that has to be managed. And so there could be some currency hedging costs involved. Mind you, these are examples of some of the main headline costs. There are many others. Let's have a look at the high-level expenses of FIFA. FIFA works in 4-year financial cycles, and the following expense numbers from 2015 to 2018 are extracted from their 2018 annual report, which includes the results of the 2018 World Cup in Russia. So during this period, FIFA spent $2,566 million on competitions and events. It spent $1,670 million on development and education. It spent $797 million on governance and administration. It spent $211 million on marketing and TV broadcast, and $124 million on football governance. So the total expenses of FIFA over that 4-year period were $5.3 billion. And while the numbers and percentages will vary, it's a good reflection of the expense model for a major sports governing body, with event costs taking the lion's share at 48%. This is followed by education and game development costs, which is good to see as this goes towards helping members to sustain and grow football the world over, and which at 31% is a very high percentage. Then there are costs related to governance and administration and marketing. FIFA reports that it spends approximately $2 million a day towards international competitions and $550,000 a day towards worldwide football development. I will be analyzing the FIFA annual report and the financials of some other sports organizations in a future episode. This should be an interesting exercise and is one that I'm actually looking forward to. So to finish off, I'll just mention some other expenses that sports organizations may incur. Annual awards. For example, an international or a national federation would normally have an annual awards function where they recognize outstanding player performances as well as the performances of match officials. An example of this is the Best FIFA Football Awards that is held annually. Annual reports and publications. Organizations release their annual reports and other periodic publications such as development reports and various other statistical reports. Besides providing very useful and interesting information for interested persons and the media, these are also used as marketing and promotional tools and are also of interest to potential partners and sponsors. Research and surveys. Organizations spend money on detailed research to see how best the sport can be developed and progressed and improved. They also conduct surveys and take feedback from stakeholders to improve the quality of the events and other offerings. Trophies. They obviously spend money on the trophies for all their competitions, and some of these trophies can be quite expensive. For example, according to estimates, the revolving FIFA World Cup trophy is worth around $20 million. This trophy is given to the winners to keep for a while and is then returned to FIFA, and the winners receive a gold-plated replica which they can keep. Medical research. Investment in sports medical research is becoming more and more significant. If a club's top player is sidelined for half the season through injury, then that is a significant blow to the club, both on and off the field, and therefore is something that should be avoided. Medical research looks at various types of sport-related injuries, their evaluation, their treatment, and future prevention, so that they can provide the best possible advice and care to those involved in playing the sport. They also look at player workload to check that players are not overextending themselves and therefore risking serious and lasting injury. Organizing various sports-related shows, seminars, and conferences. An example of such a regular event is Soccer X, which is a high-profile event and where the business of football is discussed from every angle. Soccer X is now considered an integral part of the sports business calendar. So today we discussed major expenses within sports organizations, event costs. We had a brief look at the expenses of FIFA, and we looked at some other expenses that sports organizations may incur. So I'm almost done with this episode. Now there are some action points for you. If you are interested in sports or in finances or both, then please subscribe to my channel as it will hopefully get more and more interesting as we move along. And if you liked this particular episode, then please hit the like button below. And if there are any comments or questions on what you've just heard, then I would love to hear from you and will try and respond to you as soon as I can. And if there are any future topics that you think I should cover, then you can either suggest those below or write to me at sportsfinancesfh@gmail.com. So that's all for today, folks. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you will be there for my next episode. In the meanwhile, take care and God bless.